three wonderful stories. These ladies all participated in our ladies event we had just recently, and I love their testimonies. And this is my new friend, Tasha. I call her Miss Fabulous, though. And she's, we had to narrow hers down. If you ever need a reason to smile, I want you to call her because she's got so many great things going on. So go ahead, Tasha.
She's holding the
I
mic.
get to hold this.
She made me write it down so I could make it 2 minutes. We had a lot of challenges in our life in the last year, and I'm going to tell you really quickly about one. My parents were hit head-on by a drunk driver on December 4th of this past December, and immediately God called me to raise my hands to him and completely surrender to him. And we had been through a very trying year, and so right away I just looked up, and my entire heart was encircled by the Holy Spirit. And both of my parents had life-threatening injuries and were taken to El Paso. And doctor after doctor came to us and said, this happened, but it's not possible. This happened, but it's not possible. And I was called to a place of healing prayer that I had never experienced before. And day after day, I heard miracle. And I felt like a disciple of Christ, where I could stand by and see his hand touch my parents in front of me. And my dad had MRSA pneumonia, and it was supposed to take months to heal. And 5 days later, they kept doing culture after culture, and they couldn't believe it was gone, and it was completely gone. And he had a brain bleed, and this was after he had just been in recovery from a traumatic brain injury. And I thought, this can't be. And when he woke up from his 12-day coma, there was no evidence of any blood, there was no evidence it ever existed besides the CAT scan that showed it. 12 days after waking up from a coma, he wheeled my sister down the aisle for her wedding, and he was actually held up to dance with her at her wedding. And today my dad walked into this auditorium on his own. I'm gonna cry.
Where is he?
And my mother is actually in China, and so she's fully recovered and she's touring China. So his leg was crushed in pieces, and the doctor's going to write an article about him. I'm not sure what he's going to write because he's like, you shouldn't be walking. I don't know what to say about you, but I want to write something. And I could probably help him out. But
Yes.
I do know that when God calls on you and you listen, the result is breathtaking.
Oh, good. Good job. This is my Angelica, my gentle Angelica, and she has a wonderful testimony.
Sorry, I have to cry. Okay, she just made me cry, but 2 months ago, on April 20th, I was at the movies and I got up to leave, and I fainted. And the ambulance came, and they put me on oxygen, and they gave me an IV. I went to the ER, and I couldn't catch my breath for 2 to 2.5 hours, even with the oxygen mask on. They did a CT scan, and they said that I had blood clots in my lungs. And I'm not talking about one, I'm talking about a galaxy of blood clots. My lungs were filled with them. So I was sedated in the hospital for 8 days. While I was in the hospital, they gave me 6 blood transfusions. I had a filter that was put into my heart through my neck. When I left the hospital, they said I had no restrictions or anything. I was also put on a blood thinner while I was in the hospital and taken off. I went to my doctor after I got out of the hospital, and she said that there's no way I should be alive, because in the ER they told me that if I hadn't gone there when I did, I would have died. So when she referred me to an oncologist, and he told me to have another CT scan done. That I got that a month later. When I went back to see him, he said that the blood clots were gone. He said that it was impossible because it would take about 6 months. What they told me in the hospital, it would take about 6 months for them to go away. But they were gone in a month's time. So I am healed and I am whole because of Jesus' touch. And I just wanted to share comes in Psalms 112:7-8 says, "He shall not be afraid of evil tidings. His heart is fixed, trusting in the Lord. His heart is established, and he shall not be afraid. And I was so scared in the hospital, but God took care of me from the beginning, and he showed me how much he loved me.
You know, right before this happened, some of the girls, we were hanging out and just discussing, you know, about the EMS, like it could be a way to meet guys, you know. And then I get a call, and Angelica is passed out, and the EMS had to go. And I said, girls, we're not going to do this again. So, well, since we're talking about reunions, this is Kathy, and we're lifelong friends. And our kids grew up together, and I love her. And I'm nervous now.
I'm nervous too. You go through your life and you hit a bump. And last year I hit a big bump. Just about a year ago, I was told I had breast cancer. And I've known Jesus all my life, and I know when I die I'm going to be in his arms, but I still got really scared. And we went through a lot of stuff this last past year, emotions, physical, spiritual stuff, lots and lots of stuff we went through. But I'm just going to share with you this morning just a couple of things that the Lord revealed himself to me in. Because I had a friend of mine ask me at school, I teach at a school, how are you? How are you going to handle this? And I looked at her and I said, if I can find God in it, I can do anything. I'll be okay. So I said, I just have to find God in it. And I hadn't at that moment. But I said, I'm going to find him in it because he's everywhere where I'm at, because that's who God is. And we went up on the mountain, Danny and I, and we had some really hard decisions to make. And we went up to the highest mountain we could find that's nearby, and that was Sierra Blanca. And Danny could only drive part way up because he's really afraid of heights. So we went midway, and we stopped, and he brought his guitar, and we just prayed together, and we worshiped together, just real quietly. We found a very quiet picnic area and just spent some time communing with the Lord. And we opened our eyes after we finished worshiping, and we looked around, and all these little birds had joined us in the trees. It was so cute. And that was just, and in the meantime, after that, we met a woman who had just been through breast cancer. It was just an amazing meeting, and she was encouraging, and she prayed for us. And I drive 30 minutes over the mountain in El Paso to go to work every morning, and I come home the same way every evening. And two incidents that happened on the mountain. One, I was driving up, going home, and as I was just heading up the mountain, there was a rainbow. And I'm always blown away by rainbows. God and rainbows just get me. And I was just thanking God for the rainbow. And I drove on, and I hit the middle of the mountain, right in the pass, and I saw another rainbow crossing completely across the road. And I'm just like, 2 rainbows in 5 seconds. I mean, oh my goodness, this has just got to be God, you know? And so I went down the hill on the other end of the mountain to where I live in the Northeast, and I saw my 3rd rainbow. And I just was like, I just can't. How can I say this? God's not going to walk with me through this. He's going to be with me. And it wasn't fun, and it wasn't easy, and it was ugly, and it was hard. And yet God is there. And I knew that I would find him in it, and I did. And he gave me a picture of, he said, Kathy, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to hold you through this. And I saw a picture of this ocean and a little boat, a little tiny rowboat, and he was in the boat, and he said, come, and he took my hand. And I stood in the rowboat and went with him in the rowboat, and he took me out into this stormy sea. It was horrible. I'm just like, I don't want to go out there. And he just said, come with me. And we went out to the sea, and the boat turned around and came back, and he brought me back to shore. And so that was a piece I had also from Dale that confirmed that. I knew, the Lord told me right when I first found out about this, the Lord told me that when I went to go ask Dale for prayer, he was going to tell me it's not to death. And so I didn't say anything about that. I said, I'll just wait. And so it was about a week and a half later, Danny had emailed Dale, and Dale had emailed him back, and he said, tell Kathy that this is not to death. That's what the Lord told me. And I said, okay, I know this. I know that God's with me. I guess my point is that we go through stuff. We hit our bumps. But when we're committed to the Lord, He's more committed to us than we are to Him, and He walks with us, and He will be there with us and give us our strength.